Good evening, everybody. This is Dr. Rao Kolusu. Uh, on the Sunday evening, I'm coming to you. Uh, it's almost 7 o'clock my time, Central Time. Uh, as usual, I want to chat with my friends, and that's why I'm opening the room on Wisdom and also on the Clubhouse and on the Instagram and other platforms too. So, as I come to you, some you may know me, you may not know me. I'm a physician for about 40 years of medical practice experience. Also, I'm in field of informatics with masters in biomedical informatics for 12 years now, working EMRs and big data. And also, I have been a yoga practitioner since 1985, seriously. And that I think is my proudest involvement in ancient wisdom. And now I'm a CEO and Chief Wellness Officer of a company that I found, which is called BAPAL, whose services are based on fusion of modern medicine and ancient wisdom. And I provide services of comprehensive self care for burnout victims in the healthcare field, physicians and nurses, and also stress reduction, stress management for executive leadership programs for the IT professionals, and leadership programs for uh, leaders of companies and big health systems and corporations. So have been coming on the social media, both Clubhouse and Wisdom, and have been talking my insights on the topics of stress and burnout. And today I want to talk about self knowledge. What does it mean? What is that self I'm talking about? What is that knowledge? Is that separate from everything else, or is it included? And how do you really know that knowledge? That kind of thing, because this knowledge is something that we acquire to improve or to better our lives, right? It could be things about our way of life and anything that we do outside uh, from our interior, that we need tools, we need knowledge of the tools, we need knowledge of the ways that we do things. So many things we have developed in civilization that help us to live more comfortably and conveniently. That is fine. But what I am talking here is about, do you know your interior? Not the personality and ego, but also your inner intelligence, your inner experiences, your feelings, and your attitudes towards life, and that kind of thing. So this is something big deal for human beings, because only we can look at that way. You know, we have that intelligence where we can turn inside and feel what we are, what we are doing in circumstances of life. How do we approach the fundamental questions of life? That kind of thing is very, very important. And I believe that knowing that, will have a better balanced and non-reactive, but at the same time enjoying ourselves. That kind of thing is always there. So that is what I think. I kind of feel blessed about being indicated by the ancient sages and rishis, and I try to bring that in because as a physician, I have seen a lot of suffering internally. People are diagnosed with chronic diseases and they suffer from it, and people are diagnosed with terminal cancers where their lives are shortened, and people have been involved in accidents where they were disabled and then they had to go through the physical and mental suffering of that, and also lot of mental tension, lot of mental suffering, because the way we are running our society these days, where we do things but we don't attend to our inner being that much. Everybody is now talking about doing versus being. they do notice that we're doing way too much of things that do not really matter to us because we are driven by the systems or we are conditioned like that. And then we realize this has no meaning in my life. What is meaning for my life? And then we go after uh, finding that out to go to retreats, to go to different gurus and all that. So is that all needed? Or can we really put some educational measures where people can embark on this inner journey, inner experience on their own so that they can find out what is meaningful for them in life and what is the meaning of life? How do we go about it? Is there somebody in the ancients that have explored this? I do think they did. That was the biggest contribution that they made to human life, I believe, because they were leading a simple life. They were not having desires, and they were trying to control their emotions and senses, and also really unwanted, unconscious, compulsive thoughts. Thereby, they were peaceful with it and they were joyful with it, more important. So they lived a long life because they were having a very equanimous nature inside. You know, is that something that we can do by ourselves without being a particular religion, particular school of thought, or being a slave to somebody else who is trying us? I know the truth. You come to me, I will tell you. That kind of thing, right? So I believe that people have to explore this on their own. They have to commit these energies inward on their own, and thereby they will be masters of their own self and internally, and they can experience that happiness, peace, and joy that is within each one of us. So I wanted to convey this to my friends here and encourage really exploring into this, investigating into this on their own, and really see whether they can touch that. Usually, what happens is people have to look for the livelihood or do something for their basic living needs, and so they go and develop art or develop a skill, develop an education, find a degree, and then or they can just go and work in an office or company according to their qualifications, according to the experience and all that. That will attend to their food, clothing, and shelter, all the basic needs. Once people settle down in that, they want to look at what is happiness. How can I have contentment? How can I have some peace and quiet in my life, whereby I can enjoy myself, my relationships, my job, my work, and all that, right? And beyond that, they may come to ask questions like, what is this life about? Why we are like this? So why we are human beings are so much of mental suffering, things like that. Okay, so these deeper questions were explored by people who were really at that level where they explored this internally, and they felt them intuitively and then brought them to our focus. That was there all the time. Let me say somebody wants to come up, um, and the wisdom app. So
Hello.
hi,
Hi. How are you?
I am pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Just out walking and listening to your talk.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what do you think?
Oh, oh, I really, really believe that knowing yourself is the first step to really wanting to have compassion and love yourself and want to make the world what you want it for your own vision. Like we hold these standards to ourselves
Yeah.
because of what other people have put
Yes.
in our mind.
Yeah.
And that's not following your true gut self, like
Yes.
who you are, your authentic.
Yeah. The gut self. That's what the correct word. Intuitively feel yourself. Yeah. Go ahead. yeah,
we were taught that that's not wanted behavior, or that's not, you know, the right thing to do. So
yeah,
you hide
yeah,
that part of yourself away
yeah,
and try to appease instead your environment.
yes,
And you learn that very young.
yes,
And yeah, unfortunately, we continue it into our adult lives
yeah,
because we're unaware.
exactly. Yeah, that is something I noticed in the newer schools. Newer schools, they are trying to uh, expose these kids to intuitive learning, perceptive learning, not just teaching them just to memorize some things, but then encouraging to think, encourage them to feel inside and express them. For example, if they see a begging two kids, they told them, what do you understand, why their situation is like that, what do you want to do about it, because they have natural kindness, compassion to the kid who is begging. These two kids kind of began to think about the situation, find out that kind of suffering in the world and all that. So like you are saying, we have to encourage that kind of impulses in the kids so that they can find their real self and express it without really being intimidated. Yeah, sure, definitely.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. We need to start teaching
Yeah,
the children that this need to be authentic and fit your own environment.
yeah,
You know, it's not that it doesn't have consequences.
yeah.
It's my job to
I'm losing you, Ali. So,
say, but vulnerable.
yeah,
Sorry, am I back?
yeah, you're back.
Yeah, well, it's just that we can't. We have to say it to them. You know, you may have consequences for the things you've done, but I'm not going to leave you in
Yeah,
your most vulnerable state.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, you get
And
to
that,
teach them
yeah,
wisdom. Yeah, wisdom from their own self coming out, encourage them for feeling. There was this actor, and he had this tendencies that on his birthday he was wearing a new shirt, I believe, and then he comes home and then he comes bare chested. They ask him, what happened to your shirt? He said, I gave it to this guy who doesn't have a good shirt. His shirt was torn, so I gave my shirt to him. I will go and wear another shirt because I have so many shirts. So they
yeah,
immediately identified this kid's kindness, compassion for other people, and actively encouraged him, and then really didn't punish him for losing the shirt. Appreciated his impulse of giving. You know,
yes. And it's also knowing when
yeah,
you can give and when you can't,
yeah, yeah,
because it's take care of yourself to up, right?
yeah. I mean,
That can go too far.
selflessness is appreciated rather than it is suppressed. So a lot of people will say, "You think of yourself first before think of anybody else," and then they can tend to be selfish down the line. But if you encourage them, okay, you have this tendency to give. That's a good thing, but you have to give within your means. That kind of wisdom also is important too. But my point is, we have identified a tendency in that kid which is compassionate. That is the self knowledge. That guy should know that I'm basically have these tendencies. I'm being encouraged
Yes.
by the society and the parents and the school, so I can continue this.
Yeah, and that's where I see the crack in the system
Yeah,
is with all the research, all the understanding being out there of what really is going wrong. We're not implementing it into
yeah,
the education systems.
yeah,
And so even the specialists, they're only going what they're taught,
yeah,
right? So they're not even in the wrong there.
yeah. Yeah, that's the problem with the specialties. People are reveling in the special knowledge, but you to know yourself, you got to turn inside. That means you should not have the label of specialty which impairs you from learning about yourself. Yeah, the specialization has the tendency. In my field, in the medical field, lots of times specialists don't have the rapport with the patients because they don't really look at them wholesome. They only look at the problem that they are supposed to treat, and most of the time they just treat it, and afterwards they kind of send it to the primary care doctors to take care of other things. And we do have relationship with the patient because we want to look at the patient as a whole being, not just one condition, and that makes a difference, I think.
sorry. Yes, I was listening to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
I mean, from
it's
my own experience, I'm telling you how we have experience of the patient as a whole rather than just one particular system. You are not just your cardiovascular system. You have the mind and you have the emotions, right?
think what a specialist is.
Yeah,
As they have a specialty, they literally have so many patients,
yeah,
and they see each of those for only a very short amount of time, 20 minutes maybe. So how can someone
yeah,
know
yeah. The, yeah,
20 seconds of family practitioner has
yeah,
seen you all throughout your senior life? You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah, but that also is being changed now with the hospitalist and all that. Most of the patients are only coming to the clinic for refills and all that. But it used to be I had to follow the patient continuously all the way, and then I had more better knowledge about what was going on in the hospital, what he was discharged with, and then I can follow them in the clinic. That was much easier. Now we have to follow up the story that happened in the hospital like that. So it's kind of the whole medical system is kind of getting more fragmented rather than integrated. I would like to see more integration in that way.
No, it's so true. They really are. The thing about too about medical is that it's called ideology because they don't really know why sometimes things happen.
Yeah,
Just like this is what's going on. How do we fix it?
yeah,
Right? There's not
yeah,
a lot of diving
yeah,
into
yeah. It's all. I think you are in the matrix.
what the person
Yeah, I think she's in.
environment.
She,
Am I glitching?
yeah, you are in the matrix. I'm losing you a lot. I think she's in the matrix. I lost her completely now. But thanks for coming up. And yeah, everybody realizes this. Yeah, everybody realizes this need to know ourselves. Yeah, you are in the matrix.
Am I
Ali.
back yet?
No, you are coming out in and out. I could
My
hardly hear.
matrix?
Yeah, I cannot hear you at all.
Okay, I'll try and fix my internet and when I come back.
Okay, very good. So it's the
Okay.
I think her reception was not good. Probably she might be going in a Wi-Fi area that's not good, or she's going to come back. I think she has a valid point. She was being she kind of caught hold of what I was trying to say in this context of what is the self knowledge, what is the importance of it. And the sooner I think we expose, that's a very valid point she made about the kids. If they are taught very early about this, encouraged, and then really shown the value of that, of being authentically you, of being really what you have in your heart, of the good things I'm talking about. I'm not talking about violent things. I'm not talking about some things that are self-centered. I'm not talking about that at all. But if you have some nobler instincts, if you have been uh, reading about noble people and you have an elevated thought in the morning, you are more likely to have these tendencies expressed, and you are not be intimidated by the consequences with your family, who may not be really in tune with this kind of thinking, or your school systems, or your religion, or your educational system in the universities, and all the or the society as a whole, which is going to reward if you really contribute to some external riches rather than internal riches. You may have to have balance, but just protect yourself from just being only one way with um, all the uh, orientation towards external riches and thinking those uh, materialistic gains will make you happy inside. Maybe something that you will realize down the line that's not the case. You can have few things, but at the same time, you can really be contented and happy with it. So a lot of people take monkhood and all that. I'm not talking about that deep either. If you have the choice of that, it's fine. But can you realize the temporary nature of the material things? Can you realize money can come and go? And then even then, can you be balanced? Can you be equanimous in your behavior, in your feelings, in your reactions within and all that? So that kind of thing I'm talking about. I was fortunate enough to be exposed to this ancient wisdom where they said, first be simple, take as little as possible from the earth, and then internally you be rich in your thinking, in your perceptions, in your understandings. If you can really understand the nobler high frequency individuals, and then they have shown you the way how to be simple in outside and then very rich inside. um, that was the saying that I always loved as a child, was simple living and rich thinking inside, that kind of thing. But these days, thinking has become very simple, but outwardly life became very complicated, providing us the tools of weakness, like pleasures or external acquisitions and all those things. People may find not that important down the line. Your relationships, your family, your affections, your loving capacity, they may be more meaningful to giving you a life of significance and meaning. You can take anybody like a stage proper, national leader, the thinking about bigger than themselves, right? And most of the time, these people have really transcended the need for the position, power, prestige, and all that. The moment they are power and prestige, they may do something externally, but they're not going to be loved in the long run. History may take them in the correct angle, but what is happening is the life is so fast, people are not able to stop and take a look at themselves. That's what I'm talking about. It is about looking at yourself internally, beyond a cultivated personality, beyond really mistaking your identity as your ego, and then going beyond it, and then you will feel intuitively your tendencies, your loving tendency, your friendly tendencies, your compassion and your kindness to other animals and human beings, or your natural instinct of helping the downtrodden or people who are in trouble or anything like that. Suppose you are a doctor, you have more compassion to anybody who walks into your door and asking for help from their whatever suffering, physical, mental, psychological, spiritual, and all that. You can be a partner. You can be really good facilitator of getting strength to overcome that kind of suffering. You can do all of that, but at the same time, you are enriched by your giving nature. And once you identify that, you fortify that internal tendencies. That's where the self knowledge really helps. Like my previous guest said, you got to first do that first, and then life, anything else you can learn all the other skills. They had a division of this kind of thing for a long time too. They called in Sanskrit terms Vijnana, Gnana. Vijnana is all the matters that we deal with the outside, for our bodily needs, for our shelter needs, for our clothing, or for our enjoyments, and all of that. or developing skills, developing arts, and all that. They're all external things. They're all that is not bad knowledge. That is there to enhance our life outside. That is there to make our life comfortable, convenient, and safe, and all that. Those are absolutely needed. But if you get caught up in that only, like making a living is the only thing, then you will miss this. What is this life about? What's the meaning of life? How can I perceive as a human being beyond my memory, beyond my imagination? How can you feel here and now the beauty of life, the joy of life, the bliss of life? Those kind of things I believe covered a lot. Unfortunately, we kind of identify messengers of the religions, but not with their message. I, for one, I don't belong to any religion anymore. I kind of accept everybody as human beings, and that's why people should not look at anything in a religious point of view, because that is dividing us, and that is really making us not able to deal with the world problems as one unit. You know, so I really think if you belong to anything, that's kind of had to be looked at by themselves. I don't blame anybody for having those feelings, but I've gotten beyond that. I understood we are only one human being and one earth, one humanity. So, like a COVID problem happened, that is our thing, right? So. Uh, so the COVID problem happened because we are not one humanity. We were not successful in dealing with it. Hi, Daryl.
Hi, Dr. Rao. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good, good. I'm loving what you're talking about here. I just want to ask you a question
Yeah,
about here we are. It's Sunday night.
yeah,
Monday morning, I love to put my feet on the floor out of
yeah.
bed. And I just love the possibilities of how that week can turn out. And it doesn't always turn out as I expect or as I wish,
Yeah,
right? But what I'm wondering is, with all of your expertise and knowledge on meditation, okay,
yeah,
what day of the week or
yeah,
what time, which meditation of the week do you think is the most powerful to have your week turn out well?
yeah.
I was wondering your thought on that,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. It is all researched and then found out what is the transition time, Daryl. In the morning, when we are from sleep to the day, we are transition, right? And also in the evening, from the daytime activity to the night, we are retiring. So before you go to sleep and after you get to sleep are more important hours for the meditation. Even if you do few minutes at the time, that really helps a lot, because basically meditation what it does, it gives control over your thought, mental control, not only thought but also other things too. But in the morning when you wake up, you have just come from the deep sleep where you are in your being, your mind and body both have slept really at the end of the deep sleep, where we call it non-rapid eye movement sleep. And that sleep, when you wake up from that, that is the time you want to be in awareness and be meditative, and that carries very powerfully through the day.
But what about, I get that, but what about for the week? Is it
For the
better Sunday night to plan your week, or is
Yeah,
it better to do it like Monday morning, or what is it?
yeah. I will give you a clue. What has happened with modern life for
Okay,
us
go
is,
well.
uh, what has happened with the modern life is, we don't really try to wind down and relax as much as we used to do. For example, before we had dinner, we didn't have the phones with all of us, right? So we kind of calm down and talk, chit chat, and the small talk about our school, our work, and all of that at the dinner table, and we had a relaxed dinner. You know, those times were much more before than now, because we have these opportunities, the stimuli come at us all the time, so we are not allowing ourselves to relax. So suppose that is what my key for my is, I am kind of meditative most of the time, because I divert my thoughts to the most meaningful and important work for me. Rest of the time I want to unwind, I want to relax. basically enjoy the thing. So instead of getting us in the top gear all the time, we go only for the important, meaningful things. Rest of the time, you relax, and that really makes a difference because mind needs that. It doesn't need driving at the fifth gear all the time. So
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
yeah, because in the morning, if you start this, that will go a long way. That's why the transition time, dusk and dawn, are the times for the best meditation. But during the weekdays, choose the middle of the work day. Suppose you are working 4 days, maybe second or third day. Suppose working 5 days, maybe the Wednesday. Suppose you're working 7 days, maybe in the middle, something Thursday, something like that. So that can be a day where you are going to have full hour of meditation, and then you can get benefit from it. Otherwise, you just understand what is true meditation and do that in the morning and at the end of the day. Uh, Unfortunately, our days are not ending at the end of the day. We continue into the night, and that is also kind of difficult. But once you get the hang of this, how can I be really in awareness where I'm alert but not thinking continuously? If you can catch that, I think you don't need to do even meditation as a whole. You will understand what to be meditative and what to be focus the thought, and use the thought when it is needed. But then once this is done, you can completely come out of it.
yeah. I agree with that concept of flow,
Yeah,
where a lot of times my brain is not loud and noisy.
yeah,
Most of the time, it's just ready for action. So
yeah,
I'm very much like centered because I do meditate. I've been doing it for many many years, and the thing is that I have a lot of things going on, and we've talked about multitasking and things like that.
yeah,
It's the nature of the work that I do. I'm command center for a lot of different operations happening at the same time.
yeah,
Um, but I am very much thinking like when I'm in the flow
yeah,
and someone hasn't really like thrown me off, and some people's energies do that
yeah,
because I am sensitive. But
yeah.
if I'm in the flow, I handle things so quickly and so light. Like
Light.
the word is lightweight. It's like I
Yes.
feel like a ninja putting parts and pieces like a Tetris board in place,
Yeah.
and it's just like my decisions and things like that just are very elegant and lightweight and fast.
That's why they call this flow, because it's like in the stream you are there in the flow. You don't need any effort. The stream
Yeah,
itself will
and I
carry
never
you.
get burned out. I
Yeah,
never get burned out. It's crazy. Like I've been doing what I've been doing for 30 years,
yeah,
and I get so excited every day I get to do it.
exactly.
It's
Because you love to do what you are doing.
yeah,
See, when you are loving what you are doing, you are in flow. It's a question of interfering thoughts. That's the problem. It's not the amount of work, but it's a question of if you are allowing other extraneous thoughts come in, and then those interfere with the flow, and that is the key. A lot of people allow other things like a gossip, like some news feed or some
I don't have
notification.
any of that.
Yeah, they, they
Yeah,
they
I don't do
come.
that. But it could be like somebody promises you something and
Yeah.
you relied on that, and
Hmm.
all of a sudden,
They don't.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah, they haven't done it right, and so
Yeah.
I get this, and sometimes it can be just somebody's energy, right?
Yeah.
That they just don't have conscientiousness. If they
Yes.
don't have conscientiousness, and I'm working with them, I don't enjoy that. Like
Yeah.
if you're gonna say you're gonna do something, I want you to do it,
Yeah.
and I want you to do it to the best of your abilities. So I don't. I have a low threshold of acceptance. I mean, I'll teach
Yeah.
somebody, I'll train somebody a billion times. I'll keep training it and all of that. But when it comes to not having some kind of conscientiousness
Yeah.
about your
Let,
work,
let me tell
it's hard
you
for me.
let me tell you my experience with that. I think it will be very illustrative. See, I'm a physician, right? And then I was working as an ER physician in New York, in Brooklyn, and we used to get a lot of these patients that needed to be coded right away. Then we need to save them in minutes, and then if I don't really keep my cool because people are there making some mistake, then I will lose the entire team too. So I had to learn how to not to expect anything from them, but also assume what I can do, and then rest of it. If they don't do something, immediately tell them do that again. At that time, I can't afford to have this irritation. That's how I learned, And then what it is you kind of recollect all the reactions at the end of the day, and then you can see some of those reactions you can modify
Yeah.
with practice. That's how I used to be very angry because, oh, don't you know, even give me epinephrine. I mean, without epinephrine, he's going to die. His rhythm is not going to
Right.
change. That kind
Right.
of thing didn't help the team at all. So I kind of,
Interesting.
yeah, toned it
So
down,
you
and they
grew
said,
from that. Yeah,
yeah,
you grew from that.
yeah. And then three quotes happening, I was cool and calm in the middle
Mm,
and doing all the three teams at the same time.
yeah.
They thought I was superhuman. I said, no, no, this is a learned behavior,
Learn.
learned
Yeah.
over the years. This is the self knowledge, reflecting on yourself, turning your mind on your mind itself, and studying yourself.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. That's. I mean, that's the goal right there, is
Yeah,
to get into that kind of state.
equanimous.
And you love what you're doing because you're not brute forcing
Yeah,
and you're not hating what you're doing.
yeah,
So you get the best of both worlds.
yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Thank you. I really appreciate this.
Sure, Dara. Thanks for coming up. Yeah.
Thank
Daryl
you.
and me were always involved in this information overload age concept, and he's a very good example of intellectually early elevated and trying to figure out how to be in the flow and all that. We plan to do a room on multitasking and how to come to the unitasking and all the things I learned from not only modern practices but also ancient. I was telling you about that code situation. The modern situation is I don't want to hurt any of my team members. I don't want to make them feel like they were abused during that. Okay, I don't want to not to encourage for what they are trying to do. They are also there to save the patient. They also want to do it, but they can be not having the same cool or confident. Authoritative attitude like me because I am supposed to uh, assume leadership for the medical care, not to the people. That separation really taught me how to not to alert people, not to take it out on them, but rather really steering towards the right thing that need to be done at that time. You know, that kind of restraint within me from the modern, maybe I want to be diplomatic, I want to be nice to people, I want to be polite. All these civilization techniques are there. But then what helped me was the ancient wisdom of non reactive nature because if you can understand deep breathing, its role in really making your parasympathetic nervous system activated, then what happens is your reactions will lose that uh, tenacity or the strength, in the sense you can be reactive pretty fast, that will go down. So you will react rather slowly rather than impulsively, but you are responding to the task. So that one particular change from reactive to being responsive to the task, that helped us a lot in those critical skills. It's not like a it is happening once in a while. It was happening every day in the morning. The moment I start my shift, they are there, coming to into us, pouring into us, and then we got the patients who are cardiac arrest, who are respiratory arrest, or who are really traumatic patients who has bled so much. If we don't resuscitate those patients, they will die within minutes. So it got to be, you cannot take a minute break. The moment you come into the hospital, even before they come, I'm in the car, they used to call me, oh, this patient has come and needs intubation. Intubation means we have to mechanically ventilate, put in a tube down his throat, and then connect it to the ventilator and all that, right? So that they really need to be done. Decision have to be done within seconds and all. So you kind of train yourself not to be reactive with panic or anxiety, but steadying your ship so that you can be responding to the task that were there. So what was needed is a good harmonious team, and as a leader of that medical care for that team, you got to really lead the medical care, but not really authoritative on the people's egos and their weaknesses, whatever. So anyway, that kind of internal awareness of what is happening within me, I could correct that reactiveness, and then it became much more easier for the team to understand what I'm trying to do, what I want it to be done, and then the communication was so good. After a while, they knew exactly the steps that are needed for every situation, and they knew exactly what my response was going to be. Apart from protocols we have to follow in the court situation, there's an art there too. You got to decide the whatever the help that you get into really good task managers of the entire process. Once you have that, you have a person responsible for giving medications, other person giving like a defibrillator shocks, and other person keeping the rhythm, everything going smoothly, and our cardiac we do the physical jumping on the chest and putting the heart down, all that, right? All those things are very, very important, and we did them in a very coordinated and cool and calm way, and we were not phased by the number of things coming. Each one we handled at one time. So all that was possible when I turned my inside from being authoritative, reactive, yelling at people, to somebody who is encouraging them to do that, who is appreciating them being there, who is really telling them, getting along. There's no time to be yelling and wasting. You just say, okay, that is not done. Okay, repeat that. Suppose somebody very tired about doing the cardiac resuscitation, and we may want to go somebody else take over, and also somebody is going to give the shock to the patient. Then you say clear the bed and make sure nobody gets electrocuted because we are giving the shock to the patient. So that kind of presence of mind really helped, and then the presence of mind also not to lose it, even though things can happen. So that kind of positive outcomes at the end of it happened because we kind of really understood what is our human reactions inside, and can we be just that, just angry and shouting like a maniac, or can we be civilized leader considering other people's problems and providing leadership for the medical care. So this is what I'm talking about. Self knowledge is not being self obsessive. It is understanding what can be the self within, how you can be landing in that. Actually, in spiritual terms, they talked about body and the mind and the senses, and beyond that, you have this feeling of this is me, I am, and that I you want to find out, not the ego I, because ego I is false identification. But beyond that, that existential I is within you, and that is the self you want to know about. Once you are purtured your mind into that self and you identify with the self, then things will be much more compassionate, much more kind, much more nobler, much more joyful and blissful and peaceful for yourself. That's why I always talk about internal orientation. I talk about internal riches. I talk about being with your real self. I talk about being intuitive about your real self. And because the happiness that we think is outside, actually it is inside. And once you understand that peaceful, blissful, happier side is within you, and outside things will not have such influence on us. you know That's what I wanted to talk about all the time. And my friends came up with their own presentation of this topic. And anybody else wants to say something, they are more than welcome to come up. There is uh, there are people at the clubhouse and the Instagram also. I wonder whether Ashish want to come. I remember talking to him sometime. So we'll see. See, other way to look at it is the way the commercial interests and everybody else try to. Hi, Ashish. Hello, Ashish.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
Good. I'm good, sir. What about you?
Yeah, I'm good too. So, what do you think about this topic, Ashish?
It's very good, sir. I was listening your conversation from like 10 to 15 minutes. It was going great.
Okay.
I want to know about flow state, sir.
Flow state, yeah. Yeah, this is the, you see, once you are stationed in your real self, what happens is you have the control not only your body, but also your mind too. That means whatever impulses, whatever thoughts you are having, for example, you are involved in doing some computer coding or something, you are doing that, right? And you're so involved, you're doing this, suddenly a memory comes into your mind from yesterday, and that takes you into that kind of situation from the work that you are doing, so that thought, that memory that popped out is kind of interfering with your flow state. If you can really be aware at the time and then come back to your attention to the present task, you will be in flow state continuously. So all you have to do is be here and now, be conscious with what you are doing, then the flow state will continue. Yeah.
And meditation is the only way to be in the like
Yeah.
conscious and present in here
Yeah.
and now.
Yeah. You see, whatever you are doing, suppose you are working, be with the work. Suppose you are enjoying a movie or something, just enjoy there, that kind of thing. Unless there's an emergency, unless something important comes, you don't want to take away your attention from the task that you are doing to everything. Other thing is attention to every action, just simply pay attention to that. So that means you go to the work, you don't want to enjoy music, do other things, and then do the work, but you want to do the work mainly, and the rest of the things you want to minimize in the beginning at least, and later on switch from one task to other task, and then every time you come to that, complete attention. That's what I do, one patient at a time, and I pay complete attention to the patient as much as possible. Otherwise, I get the phone calls, I get the calls from the nurses, I get administrators, insurers. They want my attention all the time. But when the patient comes, sometimes they make an appointment to 3 months away, or 4 months away, 6 months away, and they make special efforts to come to that clinic, and they have so many problems they want to talk to me, and the time is limited, right? So I will give complete attention to them. And then when I move away from the next patient, the same, complete attention to that patient. So that other patient I left wherever it is, and then when I come back to him, if something comes up, a test result or something, then I will pay attention. So basically, whatever you are doing, pay attention to that. One task at a time.
And sir, like you are like a very busy person. Then
Yeah,
how you manage the
yeah,
like technology and distractions? What is your mantra? Like
yeah.
what is the process you follow? Like what kind of process you follow?
That is the one. I'm attentive to everything, right? Uh, Present moment awareness. So I'm talking to Ashish now. I'm paying attention only to you, your question.
Okay, sir.
That's
Got it.
yeah. I think the sooner we do that, the better. But we allow our mind to vagabond and to go all over, then pick up stuff that we don't need. What happens is, if you are thinking these thoughts unconsciously or allow them to come unconsciously, they form their own track in the brain. They call them samskaras in yoga. In English, they call them ingrained thoughts. And according to the neuroplasticity, this is known for us now. Suppose you are thinking only positive all the time, your thoughts also will come positive. Suppose you are thinking negative unconsciously, and that becomes deeper and deeper, that go into depression. But if you are thinking something forward, like a fear, although it becomes anxiety. So don't allow this to become unconscious. Finish off with the thought completely, and then don't take the remnant to the next task. Then you are protected from your own false thinking, you know. And then people don't realize that they allow this to happen in 20s, 30s, 40s, and then they come to 50s and 60s, they will be repeating, oh, in our experiences these, or they will be repeating, oh, without them knowing, all these thoughts come up, and then they bother them in their sleep, and they bother them during the day too, all the time worrying about things that are already finished, or imagining some worries in the future and all that. So to be away from that, again, you have to know how I am thinking. Am I being conscious about my thinking, or am I allowing unnecessary memories from the past, or my hopes into the future are coming into my present, where I'm not really completely focused on that.
So, like you mentioned, it's also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, like
Yeah.
focus on only on karmas, not
Yes.
the end goal.
Yeah.
It's
No,
almost similar
actually,
like that.
Krishna said that in Bhagavad Gita. He said, suppose you are cleaning up a table, you don't have a goal of cleaning up the table fast, but what you want to be, it may be the goal down the line, but what is the process? In the process, what am I doing each step? Like, I suppose I kind of wipe off the dust first, and then to put some sprayer, and then I kind of take a towel and rub the whole table. All the three steps are there, right? So are you focused on each step? That's what uh, uh, Krishna talks about. He said, first be in yoga and then do anything. Be in yoga means what? Be in control of your mind, so that your conscious self is merged with the universal conscious. So you are beyond the mind, beyond the senses. You remember that example I always tell about the chariot being representative of the whole body of the chariot is our physical body, the horses are our senses, the reins are our thoughts and mind, and the driver is the discriminatory intellect that can tell what is what, and then the passenger is your soul. The soul's journey is towards going to the eternity. Then it has to go that way. It has to control the senses, the horses, with the correct thoughts, and those thoughts are directed by your intellect, which knows what is correct, what is not correct, what is the right direction, what is the wrong direction, what is temporary, what is permanent, or discretionary power. Discretion is the essence of the intellect, right? And then you will be on the right path. And but your body has to be strong too. That's why hatha yoga, and senses have to be controlled, and thoughts have to be controlled. That's the raja yoga comes in there. And then intellect, that is the gnana yoga, knowing what is what. So all the yogas combined together, then you perform very well. But if you just focus on the goal, but you are not paying attention to the task at hand, you will not reach the goal.
Okay, got it, got it.
Yeah, that's what it
Sir,
is.
you talk about neuroplasticity. So,
Yeah,
over the span of life, like sometimes we got some bad habits and we
yeah,
can change them, or with the help of neuroplasticity.
yeah, yeah. You can, because you understand the principle of neuroplasticity is same thing repeated again and again. It forms that neuronal path in the brain, right? So what you do is, if you have a negative thing, with the self knowledge means you identify your thoughts being a negative, for example, then you can replace that with a positive one every day. Thereby, suppose you don't have a job and you have the thought of never get the third job. That's a negative thought. All you have to do is try for it, and learn from the experiences of rejections and all that. So what you do is, you kind of reinforce the optimism, the positive, whatever. Suppose you got 10 interviews. That is a positive, getting the 10 interviews. And going there, getting rejected is an experience. You make it a positive. Like that, neuroplasticity, you train your mind to create positive mind. So in the evening, what you do is before you go to sleep, sleep on the positive thoughts. Maybe 3 to 10 positive thoughts that you had them during the day, bring them in, and then you can do that. Okay, and then you not sleeping on the negative thoughts, you're sleeping on the positive thoughts. So you wake up in the morning thinking of all these good thoughts already fortified in your mind.
Got it, got it. Sir, I want to ask one question also.
Yeah.
Like you believe in, like you believe in ancient wisdom, ancient like culture, like thoughts. So do you also believe in astrology? And they say that life is predestined, like
You
according to
you
your
see,
thought.
I don't believe in ancient wisdom. I kind of was illuminated by ancient wisdom, their insights. Belief is something you accept whatever they say. But if you investigate, if you find out what's the truth, that's not belief. The truth is showing you the path. Astrology is also misunderstood science of ancient wisdom. Actually, there's a lot more in astrology than predicting events or telling people somebody will get job, somebody will get married. That's not it. I think modern people are misusing astrology. Actually, that's a big topic. There's a how the whole universe is and how the planets are influencing each other with attractive capacities and all that. There's so much in there. Astro physics in ancient wisdom is a really tremendous subject. you know Part of this astrology is that kind of science. So they've kind of predicted a distance between uh, moon and the earth because they had those kind of chitta that they can envision. It's a big subject, but I don't believe in the modern way of practicing astrology to really help their fears or hopes. That's not the way it's supposed to be. You just investigate ancient wisdom, then you don't have to believe it. You can learn from it, the truths of it by investigation. Mano or jano. Mano means you accept them and you believe them. What the belief does is it kind of stupefies your mind so that it doesn't ask intelligent questions. But if you ask intelligent questions and go and find out the truth for yourself, you can see truth for yourself and then you will learn from that. So I'm not a believer. I'm more like an investigator and trying to learn the knowledge that they talked about. I listen very carefully, then I investigate. Then once I know it is truth, I want to make sure it is implemented in my life.
Got it, got it.
Yeah. Already.
So sometimes it happens we can't find the answer, like what
Yeah.
is happening in our life, and we tend to go to the astrologist, and they will say, no, it's all predestined. You can't change it.
Yeah.
It will happen like that. Then you think, if all the predestined, then why am I working so hard?
Yeah.
What should I do at that moment?
Yeah. No, actually, that's a very perplexing thing. Free will versus destiny, right? I talked about this a few times, at length. But when you start the life, the ego forms, and then the things are happening in your life, so that you need to grow and you need to develop a healthy ego. You need to learn, you need to create things and all that. Okay, but then there is something about a bigger things in your life. Maybe they will take their own way because you are kind of destined, and then you will understand where destiny plays a role and where it is needed that you need to put your own effort into that. So just live every day as a new day, and then you will understand what is it that is worrying about the free will and the destiny. And once you go beyond that egoic nature, then life becomes such a joy to live, moment to moment, day by day. You know, don't live in your thought. That's what I mean. Live existential, here and now. But if you are thinking about the thought, means you are either thinking memories and you are in the past living, or you are projecting into the future and living in the future, but not here and now. Life is really here and now, and once you start to do that, uh, everything will come into its own. You are focusing, you are doing everything you can do, and you are not allowing your thought to go beyond this moment to the past. You can learn lessons from the past, but don't go live in the past. Okay, somebody said something, you are hurt, don't go there, live it, the hurt again. Suppose something in the future is there, you can have a plan, but then each plan has so many steps, right? Then when you're doing the steps, focus on that, not on the goal, but on what is on your hand right here and now. People, most of them live in a psychologically busy way, but they don't live in the existentially here and now. And if you can look at yourself, how you are doing, and then correct yourself to the place where you are living here and now. Okay. Anyway, my topic is self knowledge. Let's talk about that. I think I see this tendency among our Indian friends. They go away from the topic and they ask me all those bigger questions I cannot justify within a few minutes anyway. you know um, so this self knowledge is something that you can feel for yourself and see yourself. If you turn your mind inward, if you use your intuition, you can feel that. Don't blame yourself. Don't really say this is bad, nothing bad. Just see how you are. Suppose you are jealous, and you can understand why I'm jealous. I feel inadequate. Why I'm inadequate? It's because I'm thinking somebody has this, I don't have it, then I'm jealous. Then that is self knowledge. And then you will say, okay, how can I go beyond it? And it happens if you are aware of that, that will disappear. That is what the use of the self knowledge. So, anybody else wants to comment about self knowledge itself? Okay, I have people on the wisdom app. Anybody wants to come up? This is a good time for you to come and pose questions. Otherwise,
Sir,
yeah,
self knowledge mostly come from like our own life experience and the observation we have or the reading we have
yeah,
about different people, biographies or some
yeah.
movies. Like
Experience is part of it, but I'm talking about what is happening within you. Are you in touch with or not? As you live daily life, you know what's happening within you. Usually, if we get angry, we get carried away with the anger. We don't pause a moment and say, where is this anger coming from? What is this? That kind of assessment at the time will reveal you what you are angry about, why you should, maybe the experiences got to do something. All those things will come into fore. And then, like I said, that I used to alert people because they are missing out steps when I'm doing the coding, right? But I changed that my attitude of reacting like that, and then that helped the team and everybody and myself too. That is self knowledge. Not everybody, nobody is telling me that. I'm just looking at myself and corrected my reactiveness to responsiveness. That is the use of the self knowledge. It's not
yeah,
about, yeah, being aware of
like
it. Yeah,
if I'm getting jealous and I'm aware that I feel like I'm feeling jealousy and like I'm working on it,
yeah.
that's self knowledge.
The self knowledge, and you also know why you are jealous. Suppose you think that somebody has a car and you don't have a car, and you feel jealous about it. Okay, when I have the money, I will buy it, and then that's it. Why do you have to suffer from that? And or you say, okay, he has car, I have bicycle. That's fine. That kind of contentment also brings you much more joy than comparing yourself to somebody else you know or you may not need that kind of thing right now, and you want to see why you are not contented with whatever you have, that kind of thing. So awareness of what you are brings forth to the all these deeper impulses, comparisons, and all those emotions, they all come up, right? And then you can understand them and go beyond them. That itself is a big achievement if you can do that.
Like you once you said about it, your last room, like it's about thought versus awareness,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, very important because we all think thought is the powerful one because we allow it to dominate us like that, you know. But beyond the thought is the awareness, which is aware of the thoughts. Without that, you don't have any thoughts, you know. And so, thought is a, some like a mental tool that is coming up that should be your slave, not your boss. Once you understand that, then you are wake up in the morning awake and aware. Hold on to that, and then let the thoughts come in as needed for each task. Once you learn to control like that, then it becomes very blissful experience of living every day.
So, how to improve awareness? Like from mindfulness, awareness is both are
you
the
you
same thing.
you cannot improve awareness. You can get into awareness because it's already there. You are not in touch with that. So just be aware of your thoughts. That means you are in awareness of the thoughts. Each thought is coming. Don't go pursue it right away, or don't resist it right away. Watch it. As you are watching it, you will see that you are awareness and you are really getting in touch with that. It's not something like a measurable that can be improved and all that. It is there, but you are not in touch with it. So, good thing I was telling my friend, dawn and dusk are a very good times to be aware, to be in touch with awareness, then you will know there are methods to do that. In Vedanta, there are 4 5 methods are there, but the basic thing is when you get up, you are awake and aware. Don't allow the train of thought come in right away unless you have something to do with something, that's okay. But we allow every thought about news, about all these audios and all those things come up, right? And then we also allow our memory and future, all those things come up. Don't do that. Just be with your awareness. That means be in the present moment. Are you in touch with the present moment? If you are, then you are in awareness. Okay.
Okay, got it, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, what do you think about journaling? Like before sleeping, you should we should journal everything that happened and sleep peacefully.
Journaling empties your thoughts, Ashish. It's a good thing to practice. If you are having too many thoughts, you want to make them concentrated, then journal them. That means they are coming out of your mind and then you emptied them like a purgation, you know. But usually the journaling also become mechanical if you don't really empty your mind really well. Okay. It helps definitely. In the beginning, it helps, but later on, you have to move from emptying to really not accumulating. So, for me, I am in awareness all the time, so I don't accumulate. So, there is no need to empty them. I mean, it's not that easy, as I said, but that is a physical, realistic fact is I don't accumulate things. And once you understand that, suppose you are doing 10 to 11, you are having this meeting, and 11 to 12, you have to do some physical work, and then you have to have lunch. All those 3 hours, what you do is when you are doing the first hour, just focus only on that. Don't take that into the next hour. The next hour also focus what you are doing. And the third hour we are having lunch, only relax and then don't think. That is the problem. Thinking all the time, that has to be changed. Think appropriately. Think only what is needed. That is a very novel concept in this age because everybody has stimuli from everywhere that make them think. Does it make sense, Ashish?
Yeah, sir. Yeah, got
Yeah.
it
So
completely.
just be in awareness and then use the thought as the tool whenever you want to think about things and all that. Otherwise, you just have to take it easy and then just to be in touch with the present, what is happening around you, in you. Just watch all of that.
Can you recommend some books on that topic?
No, no, books again, thoughts, right? No, be in
Okay.
touch with the present. That is the one you want to practice.
Okay,
Suppose you
sir.
are
Okay.
reading a book for a message, and that also you have to do intentionally. What does this author has to say? What is that I want to learn, and all that? But don't remember the words without implementing in your life, you know. But when you are done reading, it should go from your mind. Otherwise, you are accumulating more thoughts. So that's why actually this, I think you got a very good point now, because what they said was, first read your own inner book. Up until that, don't read all these other books outside. But what we do, we read so many other books from outside, and then we want to learn the facts, and then we want to accumulate our mind with a lot of facts, but don't want to bring them to our life. We were enjoying quoting them and all of that. That's not what is needed. First, you have to read your own inner book, and then try to understand other people's comments on whatever they wanted to say. This book reading has become such a big deal. People think they are going to have self help from the book. Then how come they are not changed? Many people read many of self help books, right? But if they take their interior, if they take their behavior, it has not changed at all.
Mhm. Only the authors getting richer and very
Yeah.
popular, not the
Yeah,
people getting
no, no.
benefited.
There is a scientific thing and the yoga thing also. What they say is all these vasanas, tendencies that you form, they come out. You see, when you are learning some kind of emphatic statement about somebody says, "Oh, you have to read so many books, you have to learn from them, you have to improve your wisdom and all that," right? So people do that, and then they accumulate their mind and everything with the tendencies of we should be not telling the lie, those things, right? Those vasanas come up in when you are trying to be quiet, and usually people catch them and go that way. And those tendencies, if you want to really understand them, you should not even accumulate them, you should purgate them. That is what a meditation does, for a lot of people. So why do you have to read so many books anyway? Why can't you read your book first? That was the question.
Yeah, that's true.
Now think about it seriously. I think you will be able to appreciate that once you understand yourself. Outside books become not that relevant, really. But if at
Yes,
all you read the books, you read from a noble soul, from somebody who did not do just because they have half knowledge and wrote it. But you read big, noble people's books. For example, for me, Vivekananda. You know what he talked about. The self knowledge is a very significant thing. You know what he said? One woman went to him and he said, "If only you knew who you are," meaning that you have to know yourself first. And he said something else too. First, know yourself. That is the goal of the human life. And then, once you know yourself, go and help the world. Atma mokshardam jagat hitacha. He didn't say read the books. He said Atma mokshardam. You first learn yourself and then go and help the world. Remember that and then repeat that every day in the morning and see what kind of change it happens in you.
okay, sir. I will do. I will do sure.
Yeah, that's a great saying of Vivekananda. Vivekananda is like a real product of modern plus ancient. He knew the contemporary science. He knew the uh, at the time of the scientists. We know for sure Tesla, Nikolai Tesla, the energy person. He met Vivekananda. He was very much influenced by Vivekananda. There are so many other people too. So he was in touch with all the sciences, all the consciousness works, and physics and everything. He was in touch with that. Neuroscience also quantum theory. He knew about it. So it is kind of whatever that was there, the science it was there, and he never said not to pay attention to that. But he said, first pay attention to your inner self, know yourself, and then you are not your body, you are not your mind, you are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions, you are not your conclusions about yourself, you are not your ego, but you are that spiritual self which is within you, which is the inner layer. Out of around that, all these other layers are there. Okay.
So self-awareness is key to peaceful
Yeah.
life, peaceful mind, and happiness.
Yeah. Very, very. Actually, that state is blissful, conscious being that is peaceful and happy. Sat Chit Anand, they said, existential, conscious being that is blissful.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
All right. I think I will stop it here if nobody else wants to come up and talk about this topic. Basically, what I'm saying is calm down your mind, turn inward, and find out who you are. That should be done as early as possible in life. Otherwise, you become a neurotic person, and then later in life, I'm seeing a lot of elderly people who cannot control their mind. It goes on. There's a beautiful, peaceful, harmonized, happier, blissful, joyful self within all of us. Get in touch with that, and then use the mind for the practical things, and you will be very happy with that. With that, I will take leave now, and I will be meeting again some other day. Thank you.
Thank, thank you, sir, for wonderful session.
Okay. Bye, everybody on the Instagram.